I had always thought that marriage meant partnership. A shared life, shared decisions, shared respect. But lately, it felt like I had become invisible in my own home. My wife, Laura, had slipped into a routine where my presence barely registered. Conversations I tried to start were met with distracted nods or curt replies. Plans we had made together were suddenly made without me. And worst of all, she had started to introduce me to friends and acquaintances not as her husband, but almost as a background character in her life. The breaking point came one Saturday afternoon. We were hosting a viewing for the house we had decided to sell. Laura was moving through the rooms effortlessly, chatting with the potential buyers, laughing and gesturing like she was the sole owner of this space, this home we had built together. I walked behind her, trying to offer insights, suggestions, or even just make a comment, and she brushed me off. Again. In the living room, as she guided the couple from the front door toward the kitchen, she introduced me casually. "And this is someone I know," she said, her voice airy, like she had just mentioned the weather. I froze, the words slicing through me. Someone I know? Not her husband? Not the man who had signed the papers, fixed the leaky faucet, and spent years building this life with her? "I'm the husband selling the house," I said, voice calm but carrying the weight of months of frustration. Her eyebrows lifted, momentarily caught off guard, but the buyers didn't react. They simply looked at me with polite curiosity, unaware of the tension hanging in the air. It wasn't about proving a point. It wasn't about humiliating her. It was about reminding everyone, including her, that my presence mattered, that my contributions counted, that I was not invisible. The day had started as another ordinary Saturday, but by the time the tour ended, I had made a quiet statement. I existed, I was part of this life, and I would not let myself be erased. After the buyers left, I walked through the rooms alone for a moment, taking in the space we had shared. The memories, the effort, the life we had poured into these walls. They weren't hers alone. They were ours. And if Laura wanted to act like I didn't exist, I would find ways to ensure that no one else forgot either. The next few days were tense. Laura didn't speak much about that moment, but I could see it in her eyes, the subtle awareness that I wasn't going to fade into the background anymore. She tried her usual tactics, ignoring me when I entered a room, making plans without consulting me, even casually dropping mentions of my friends, as if I were invisible. But I had found a sense of clarity, a quiet confidence that I hadn't felt in months. I wasn't going to compete with her attention or demand respect. I was simply going to assert my presence in ways she couldn't ignore. It started small. A framed photo of us on the mantelpiece, prominently displayed, with the inscription from our moving-in day. Our home, our journey. A subtle touch, but meaningful. I made the kitchen my domain during the mornings, brewing coffee and leaving it on the counter, an unspoken reminder that I was here, part of this home. Each little action built on the last, a quiet crescendo of ownership and acknowledgement. Then came the showing of the next group of buyers. Laura, as usual, took the lead, laughing and moving through the rooms with practiced charm. I walked behind her, offering details she had overlooked, pointing out repairs I had done, moments of care that had gone unnoticed. And this time, I didn't let her introduce me vaguely. When she gestured to me, I stepped forward. "I'm the husband selling the house," I said again, louder this time with calm authority. The buyers nodded, impressed by the knowledge I shared and the way I handled questions. For the first time, Laura's practiced smirk faltered. She pulled me aside later, in a whisper meant to be private but full of tension. "Do you have to make a scene every time?" she asked, her voice tight. I looked at her, steady and unflinching. "It's not a scene," I said. "It's a reminder that I exist, that I matter in this life we built together. And if you can't acknowledge that, then maybe you need to start seeing me differently." By the time the buyers left, it was clear. I had re-established my presence. The house wasn't just a building, it was a testament to both of us, and I wasn't going to let anyone, especially Laura, forget that. A few days later, things came to a head during an open house we had organized for serious buyers. Laura moved through the crowd as if she were the sole owner of the property, confidently answering questions and pointing out features she had never really cared about before. I stayed close, quietly observing, but this time I didn't just follow. I engaged directly, answering technical questions about the renovations, the wiring, the plumbing, all the work I had done quietly behind the scenes. A buyer asked, "Who did all this work?" Laura started to respond automatically, but I stepped in. "I did," I said clearly, making eye contact with everyone in the room. The buyer's eyebrows lifted, impressed, and Laura froze for a fraction of a second. A crack in her facade. I could see the realization in her eyes. She had been downplaying my role, but the world outside our marriage could not ignore it. Later that evening, after the last visitor had left, we sat in the living room, tension thick in the air. Laura didn't speak at first. Finally, she looked at me, a mixture of frustration and begrudging respect. "I didn't realize how much you've done, or how invisible I've been making you feel," she admitted, her voice quiet but sincere. I nodded, keeping my own emotions in check. "It's not about recognition," I said. "It's about respect. About being acknowledged as your partner, not a shadow." The room felt heavier, yet lighter at the same time. For the first time in months, there was honesty between us, even if it was uncomfortable. I realized then that claiming my presence wasn't about winning an argument or asserting dominance. It was about reclaiming my voice, my space, and my role in this shared life. By the end of the week, the house had been sold, and a subtle change lingered in our home. Laura treated me differently, yes, but more importantly, I treated myself differently. I no longer waited in silence, hoping to be seen. I had reminded everyone, including myself, that I mattered. Sometimes standing firm and asserting your existence isn't dramatic or loud. It's quiet, unwavering, and undeniable. And in that steadfastness, I had regained not just respect, but a renewed sense of self in a life I had built together with the woman I loved.